Big update to Xbox Cloud Gaming. There's a shortage of Xbox controller. A new multiplayer shooter has been announced, plus other stuff. So let's get into it. So Xbox Cloud Gaming is such a huge feature of the Xbox ecosystem, and I believe it's very still much in its infancy in how it's going to continue to expand out and get more people into the Xbox ecosystem. And the features for Xbox Cloud Gaming continue to improve. We saw things like the clarity boost that came to Xbox Cloud Gaming within the browser, and it looks like we are getting a couple more big updates for this service. So Microsoft is adding mouse and keyboard support to Xbox Cloud Gaming, meaning you're going to be able to play all of these games via your browser, via the Xbox app. And if they support mouse and keyboard support, you're actually going to be able to use that input. Morgan Brown, a software engineer, talked about this, saying Xbox has been supporting keyboard and mouse for a few years now, and we're working on adding it to streaming for PC users. And then he went on to comment about the developers who put these games into cloud gaming, what they're able to do. He says you can start adding it to your game right now, and your console, keyboard, and mouse users will appreciate it. It will light up in streaming once we've finished adding it. So that's a great thing to hear, because there are plenty of games out there that do have mouse and keyboard support, but you have to connect a Bluetooth controller. And if you're just sitting on your computer, you have a mouse and keyboard, you open your browser, you get into the Xbox Cloud Gaming feature, you can just continuously play and switch between what you were doing before to playing games via Xbox Cloud Gaming with your current input setup. I think that's going to be such a huge convenience for a lot of people, and lots of games on there are just going to function extremely well with the mouse and keyboard input. Now, what else is pretty cool is that they say here it will allow Xbox Cloud Gaming users to stream Xbox games, not the PC ones, using a mouse and keyboard. So games like Sea of Thieves, Minecraft, Halo Infinite, and even Fortnite all support mouse and keyboard through Xbox Cloud Gaming. So it's the Xbox versions that still have that support for the mouse and keyboard input you're actually going to be able to use with those games. I believe for a lot of the games, you could actually just plug a mouse and keyboard into your Xbox Series X, Series S, and play that way if you want. And that's not the only thing they're adding. They're adding a very good thing here, which has to do with reducing latency, and that is the display details API. Now, what this is going to do is it's going to save up to 72 milliseconds of latency overall. And they say this is achieved by using direct capture, which reproduces hardware features in software to eliminate the wait for VSync and double or triple buffering, and even the scaling needed for TVs. Now, whenever games are scaled and have artifacts, they add latency to the actual game themselves, and it says that games already support direct capture to improve the performance on Xbox Cloud Gaming, where latency can drop from about 2 to 12 milliseconds compared to the 8 to 74 milliseconds through the traditional display line. Now, the drawbacks to using the direct capture is that the maximum resolution that's going to be able to be used is 1440p, and there is no support yet for HDR, but all in all, that isn't a huge deal, because if you're playing Xbox Cloud Gaming on your phone, it's 720p, and if you're playing it on your PC or the web, it's 1080p. So it still can get up to the 1440p, but Xbox has also talked about continuously improving on those types of things, especially with the TV app coming out with the partnership with Samsung. You're definitely going to want to get higher resolutions just to have a better, clearer picture with a bigger screen TV. And Morgan Brown talks about this as well, saying that's something that we expect will change over time based on different devices, network conditions, and improvements to the streaming stack. And you can see here just from this picture, I'll just zoom in a little bit, where it shows you the big difference between the display pipeline versus the direct capture in terms of the latency, the resolutions, the scaling and dynamic resolutions, the HDR stuff, the planes, and the back buffer formats. But the biggest thing with Xbox Cloud Gaming that trumps everything, in my opinion, is that latency, especially when you're playing first-person shooters, or if you're playing a fighter or something, you really want to have as little latency as possible. And if you can get a great streaming platform, which Xbox Cloud Gaming already is, have a little amount of latency, it really is going to change the game for video games and get gaming out to as many people as possible, which is what Xbox Microsoft wants to do. Because if you're somebody who has never experienced it, and let's say you don't have the consoles, but you just want to play a couple of games, you jump in there, and your first experience has a lot of lag and latency, you're probably not going to want to stick on that. So that's going to be a huge thing going forward to try to reduce the amount of latency as much as possible. But all in all, cool stuff. Xbox Cloud Gaming, like I said, in its infancy essentially, and they're continuously adding more stuff to it, making improvements, and we're going to see this service just continuously expand over the next decade or so as cloud gaming becomes more and more prominent in the gaming industry. All right, so today is the day that Naraka Blade Point is launching into Xbox Game Pass, and honestly, I'm pretty excited for this game. I'm gonna jump in and check it out. It is a battle royale action fighting game. It was announced at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase, and it looks just like it's going to be a ton of fun. Well, VG247 had an interview here with Archer Wang, who is the marketing manager at 24 Entertainment, and they talked about Naraka Blade Point coming into Xbox Game Pass and if there were any concerns, plus a couple of other things about the game. So the first question here was, so Naraka Blade Point is coming to Xbox, why bring it to Game Pass alongside a typical Xbox release? And Wang responds, first of all, because Game Pass also includes PC players, so one of the main goals is to reach out to a broader audience. We definitely wanted to expand our community. Continues on saying that with Game Pass, you can connect to a number of players from the different platforms, and they're happy to be able to bring those players into Naraka, which makes a ton of sense. Game Pass having PC in there, it really is a game changer for a lot of developers when they think about putting their games into Xbox Game Pass, because they put it in there. They're not just getting the console market, they're getting all of the people on there on PC, and I'm sure that makes up a ton of subscribers to Xbox Game Pass. People who just subscribe to Xbox Game Pass PC, and then people who also subscribe to Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to get both versions of the service. So opening up that brace of players where they're just going to see it pop up when next time they log into Game Pass, and they may give it a chance and try it out. And they also talk about this deeper down into the interview, but there's microtransactions within this game. So you get people to jump into the game. If they enjoy it, they're going to probably spend some money on microtransactions where they are going to be making the majority of their money. Now, they also talk about how this game is most popular in Cambodia and Singapore, Thailand, and China, and is putting it into Game Pass, trying to break into the Western markets. And he says, yes, that's definitely part of it. They have a strong community right now in North America and Europe, but they say here, one of our main goals is to use Game Pass to increase our community size in those countries that we already have a strong base in. So, I mean, Game Pass essentially right now is the strongest in the West, right? That's where the most people, I believe, are signed up for Game Pass, but Xbox is expanding Game Pass out to many different parts and many different markets. And that's what they're going to be trying to do, especially with the Xbox Cloud Gaming stuff. But if you put your game into Game Pass, if you are stronger in other markets other than in the West, more people in these markets, in the Western markets, are going to experience and play your game. Like, this is a game I probably would have never tried out if I didn't hear about it at the Xbox and Bethesda showcase. And we saw the entire thing with the customization of your player, which looks extremely in depth. We saw them put the Phil Spencer picture in there and get his face in the game. So lots of cool stuff that you're going to be able to do it when you jump in to Naraka Blade Point. Now, they go on here to talk about how there has been discussions surrounding games releasing on Game Pass hampering profits for the developers. And Wang responds here saying, not at all. There's a reason that we wanted to bring the game to Game Pass. We're nearing our 1-year anniversary for Naraka Blade Point, and we've done pretty good so far. So we think it's going to be a long-term operation, and making choices that work towards that is a great decision in our eyes. With Game Pass, we're definitely going to bring in a larger audience, and that's the most important thing for us. We can get feedback from them, and we can expand the community, and that's really all we care about right now. And then after that, they talk about the microtransactions. But one thing Wang does mention here, that they aren't only just pushing for the microtransactions. Yes, of course, that is a big thing, but expanding the community is a real goal for them. As they do say here, there's going to be updates every 2 to 3 weeks with new heroes, new cosmetics, and new weapons. And they're developing a new map, so there will be plenty for the community to look forward to. So this is interesting because the game is out right now. If you want to check it out, go check it out on Xbox Game Pass. I know I will be doing that. But it's more just optimism about what Game Pass can do for a game to expand the community, for people to check it out, which essentially is going to lead to that game being more successful, people buying it if they enjoy it, people spending more money within the microtransactions for that game. And it'll be very interesting to see just how well, or maybe how bad, Naraka Blade Point does on Xbox Game Pass. So it looks like consoles aren't the only thing that are hard to come by these days, as Microsoft has confirmed that there is a shortage of Xbox controllers. Now, this is particularly in the UK and in Europe. As it says here, there are currently no controllers in any color in stock at retailers like Game, Smiths, Argos, Currys, or even the official Microsoft store. Amazon UK is one of the few retailers that has apparently the black controller, but they're selling it for nearly double the official price, which is absolutely crazy to think about, that there's an actual shortage of controllers right now for Xbox. And Xbox actually confirmed this, talking to VGC, saying, "We know it may be hard finding Xbox controllers right now due to supply disruptions. We're working as fast as possible with our manufacturing and retail partners to improve this. Please check with your local retailer for availability." Now, as it seems right now in the United States, and I believe across Canada, because I haven't really noticed any lack of Xbox controllers, the availability is still there, but that may change if the supply disruptions are still there and they continue to carry on for a while. At the end of the day right now, though, the best place, I guess, to get one of these controllers is the Xbox Design Labs. As they say here, the Design Lab is still taking orders, but you don't get those into your hands for like a month after you order it. And they've added a bunch of new stuff to the Design Labs, in particular like the actual colors that you could put on there, the different styles. And they also added this here, I don't remember seeing this previously, but this community gallery where you can go in and just kind of see the different controllers people are making to get inspired, I guess, when you're making your own. So very weird that there is a shortage right now of Xbox controllers, just letting you know in case you've been looking for one and seemingly can't find one. Jumping over here to a brand new multiplayer shooter that was just announced, and this is coming from Creative Assembly and Sega, and it is a new game called Hyenas, which is a multiplayer shooter with about 15 players that are split up into teams of 3, and it is a PvE VP heist game. So they explained it as a fast-paced multiplayer FPS that casts players as anti-hero pirates stealing from the mega rich. Each match hosts 15 players split up into 5 teams of 3, and those teams compete to steal treasures from a spaceship and escape with the biggest pile of loot. Now, there was a quick CGI trailer for it. There's no release date, but from what we understand is that there's going to be AI-controlled security force that defends vaults containing treasures that you seek, and then the guards will fight anyone trying to steal from the billionaires. And the creative director Charlie Boucher, in a chat with IGN, talked about it, saying these ships aren't defenseless. They're full of security sensors, switches, interactive systems, and gadgets. It's a great environment for the competitive game to take place in. Now, what else is cool is because this is in space, you're traveling between Earth and Mars. There is also 0 gravity. So you're going to be able to fly around, float around, all that type of stuff. There are on and off switches for the 0 gravity, depending on the different rooms that you're going to be in. And the characters have mag lock boots to overcome any gravity issues if you're not wanting to just kind of float around and go around in that method of travel. Now, when it comes to the style of game it is, as it's PvE-VP, Boucher also says here, we didn't want to make a battle royale, but we wanted to take that idea, creating this unpredictable, chaotic space where players would find this new gameplay, find new tactics, and ultimately find new player stories. So, I mean, that's pretty much all we know about it now. They didn't go over all the players. There are some screenshots of what we can expect in terms of the art style of the game. And you can go watch the CGI trailer as well. And I mean, you can't really see exactly the gameplay or anything like that from that trailer. But I think the game overall looks pretty decent. Like, from the concept of what they're trying to go for, I'm pretty excited to see eventually what it's going to play like when it comes out. There is an alpha you can also sign up for. I think I am going to do that. But a multiplayer first-person shooter, a new one coming out from Creative Assembly and Sega that you can be looking forward to now. All right, to end things off here, let's talk about Xbox backwards compatibility. So as we know, that was a huge feature with the release of the Xbox Series X and S, the backwards compatibility across all the different generations, and Xbox has done a great job. Obviously, there are a lot of games that aren't within the program yet, and it makes sense based off of everything that they have to go through in order to get these games into the backwards compatibility program. They announced later on that they're stopping with their program for now, as they had to just focus on other things, get teams working on other stuff. But this person here put out a tweet saying someone at Xbox needs to go back to making games backwards compatible. There is a treasure trove of Japanese JRPG games on 360 that need to make the jump, and some of them are from publishers that already have titles in the program. And it's definitely right. 360 was pretty great for JRPGs. There were a ton on the 360 that we just haven't gotten now for 2 generations, well, including this generation as we're going through it. And Jason Ronald actually responded, which was awesome to see because we got some more insight as to what is going on. And he responds here, every title is a unique challenge. Licensing is more complicated than just at the publisher level. Depending on the title, it may involve composers, licensed soundtracks, voice actors, writers, etc. Definitely not due to a lack of desire by the team or interest from the community. Chris here responds, hey, thanks for the response. I figured it could potentially be a minefield of issues. So in cases like Magna Carta 2 specifically, are you able to elaborate on the hang up in adding it in? And Jason Ronald says, unfortunately, I can't talk about specifics on any one title, but I will share that some of the titles in the last batch took years of work, including some I never thought we would be able to bring back. Community feedback drove our priorities and the team did everything they could. So there you have it. I think it's pretty much what everybody thought the issue was with backwards compatibility, why they have to stop it, and just how much work they've put into it so far. It all has to do with the licensing. You have to get the licensing across various different avenues for these games, and that probably just isn't worth the return on their investment, isn't worth the effort to put into some of these games that they know at the end of the day will be played by a very small amount of people. But other areas will suffer if they're putting their time towards these things where they could be using that time to make just overall Xbox ecosystem better. It's unfortunate. I would love to see more backwards compatible games coming. I'm sure a lot of other people out there would, but I definitely understand why they can't continue with the program. And it also just calls into question the overall way that these games are made, and when these contracts are made for the licensing, they don't really think about the future of preserving these games. And that's why if you really love some of these games that you want to play back on the 360, back on the original Xbox, if they're still able to get them, if you're still able to get these games, I would suggest just going out and getting the physical versions of them and making sure that you have an original Xbox or a 360 if that's something that's even possible for you. I know I have a pretty big Xbox 360 collection, and a lot of those games aren't within the backwards compatibility program, as well with my OG Xbox stuff, but that's always going to be the best way to preserve games, to actually have the physical versions of those games and then actually have the physical hardware to play them on. But that's it for me, guys. Let me know your thoughts on all this stuff. What do you think about Naraka Blade Point? Are you going to be checking it out today? What do you think about there being a shortage of Xbox controllers? I never thought that would happen. What about the upgrades to Xbox Cloud Gaming? Are you going to be checking out Hyenas? And anything else you want to talk about in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you're new here, you liked what you saw, consider hitting that subscribe button. Thank you all for watching. Thank you for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video. We'll be right back.